The Olympics are coming here to Los Angeles. Will baseball be a part of it?
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please, by all means, call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for a little bit now, and this is my sixth full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network, and the first and probably only one where I'll be hosting two shows. I'm hosting Locked On MLB, and I'm hosting Locked On A's. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram and Sully Baseball on Twitter, or whatever it's called. It's Twitter. Now through September 22nd, FanDuel, our sponsor for today, can give customers $5 and a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Okay, I'm recording this from the luxurious Locked On MLB studios in Pasadena, California, overlooking the historic Rose Bowl. And I am terrified about what's going to happen 4 years from now. I'm not talking politics. This is a political safe zone. Wherever you land on the political spectrum, you're welcome here. I'm not saying I am going to be apolitical. I'm just saying that this is not going to be a political show. But here in Los Angeles County, I think we all saw that with Tom Cruise jumped off that thing in the Olympics in Paris. We're getting the Olympics again. Well, this is going to be the third time Los Angeles gets the Olympics, and the second in my lifetime. I remember the 1984 Olympics vividly. It was a great big feel-good moment and made everyone feel good about America and made everyone feel good about this, that, and the other thing. The Russians didn't show up, so the United States swept the medals, much to the consternation of McDonald's. If you know about that whole fiasco, if you don't know what it was, McDonald's had a thing where you buy your Big Mac or your shake or whatever, you pull a little sticker off, it'll have an event, an Olympic event. And if America won the gold medal in that event, you got whatever thing was on the sticker. So it'd be like a free, quarter pounder or a free French fry or whatever. Under the impression that the Russians were going to be there and probably win a bunch of medals themselves. Well, when the Russians boycotted, America swept virtually everything, and McDonald's kept handing out free Filet-O-Fishes and free McNuggets. Actually, I don't know if McNuggets existed back then. Anyway, those were the Mary Lou Retton Olympics, Edwin Moses Olympics. Now, that was not the time for Olympic baseball. Baseball was not a medal sport in that year. There were years where there was for the lack, I guess it was considered a exhibition sport in some of the previous Olympics. And there was in 1984, there was a tournament. There was a tournament in 88. It was a demonstration sport. And that was Mark McGwire was on the 84 team. There were a couple of future major leaguers, Mark McGwire, Shane Mack, and then the 88 team had players like Tino Martinez and Jim Abbott. But by 1992, the sport was now a medal sport. I'm going to mention the 92 Olympics a couple of times here. Now, Olympic baseball has had its ups and downs in terms of its relevancy over the years. And in the first bunch of times it was an official sport, it was dominated by really three teams: the Cubans, the Japanese, and the South Koreans. Chinese Taipei, basically the Hong Kong team would win from time to time, but for the most part, those were the teams that dominated for one real specific reason. They were playing their country's best players. The national teams of Cuba did not have a lot of players in the United States because of the embargo. A lot of Japanese players had not made the transition from Japan to America at that point. In fact, in 1996, when the Japanese won the silver medal to Cuba, that was just 1 year after Hideo Nomo arrived and was the first of the Japanese stars to come over there. And, so the teams that would play for the United States, for example, would be consisted of minor leaguers or former major leaguers who couldn't get a job. Now, the United States won the gold medal in 2000. Tommy Lasorda was the manager. And there were some players, some future stars on that team, like Roy Oswalt, became a huge star pitcher. You saw that I've got the roster up here. Future Red Sox first baseman Doug Mientkiewicz was on the team. And then you had some players like Pat Borders, who were former major leaguers who got on there. But for the most part, Brad Wilkerson, there's some people who had good major league careers, but it wasn't star-studded as they took on the Cuban team for the gold medal game. And, throughout the years, like in 2020, when you saw the United States got the silver in the games that were kind of the games, the 2020 games, again, there were no big major league stars on that team. They were all players who were either formerly really good players or players who were minor leaguers at the time. Meanwhile, a lot of very familiar names played on the Japanese team as you look through the years. In 2004 alone, you had future major leaguers like Kosuke Fukudome, Daisuke Matsuzaka, Koji Uehara. Sorry, just a lot of players who went on to play in the major leagues who were playing on the national team there. So the excitement, at least for Americans, around the Olympic baseball has been tempered. And it's been one of the things that have made people hope that the World Baseball Classic would be able to catch on. And the last World Baseball Classic was probably the most successful one that we had. It was very competitive and people actually wanted to play it. The first few years of the first few times they played the World Baseball Classic, I thought was a disaster because none of the major leaguers really wanted to participate in it. And it was kind of a vague prize. You're winning a cup that Bud Selig came up with during spring training. And so the idea of Major League Baseball players participating in an international event has been a long time coming. And it has been, it's been interesting to see if baseball even needs it in a way when you see players from all around the world coming to Major League Baseball. Players from the Caribbean, players from South America. Now you're seeing more players coming from Japan, more players coming from Korea, some more players coming from Cuba. And as baseball puts its tentacles out throughout the world, we're going to see more players from Australia and hopefully more players from Europe, from Africa, and from other nations that we haven't seen coming to America to play play baseball at the highest level. Well, a couple of things are floating around that could make the 2028 Olympics the showcase for Major League Baseball and a world competition in a way that we haven't seen in Major League Baseball probably ever. And to see the effect of that, we only have to look to that aforementioned 1992 Olympics in Barcelona to see how that affected another sports league. Hey, let's hear from our sponsor today, which is FanDuel. You know all about FanDuel. FanDuel is where you go to make your bets all summer and all year long. I mentioned the summer games, and the summer games are over. But soon it will be time for playoff baseball and the NFL. Now, America's number one sportsbook is FanDuel, and we will give you a little something different for you now through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV-based plan, you're able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel it anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel. Hey, thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your second listen, enjoy more of me, your pal Sully on Locked On A's. I'm going to break down the Oakland A's all year long in this, their final year in Oakland. Oh, Sully, I'm not an A's fan. Why would I want to listen to that? Glad you asked. There's a lot of stuff we're talking about in Locked On A's, including breaking down their bizarre move from Oakland to Sacramento. I went to a game in Sacramento and reported what it's like to sit in a day game in the state's capital. We also did an on location episode recently where we went to all the different places where the A's proposed to build a new ballpark, but never did. We're having fun. It's not a sad show. Sure, we're going to miss the A's in Oakland, but we're having a fun time there. Check us out. Locked On A's available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Okay, with baseball returning to the Los Angeles Olympic Games in 2028. It's going to be a medal game again. It was dropped for the Tokyo Games. It was dropped for the Paris Games, but it's coming back now. And in the past, when there was the possibility of having top stars playing in the Olympic Games, it did come to fruition for a pretty obvious reason. The Olympics are in the middle of summer. It's tough to get players to go there, unlike the NBA and unlike NHL. However, now it's in the United States. You won't have to be sending top players in the middle of the pennant race to Paris or Rio. And it's in Los Angeles. And it's also kind of sort of a Venn diagram of convenience to have this sort of, showcase. In the past, as we had mentioned before, the teams that didn't have lots of major league players but had strong national teams could win it. But now with players like Shohei Ohtani could be playing for Team Japan, obviously Team Dominican Republic would be phenomenal. Aaron Judge and Mike Trout would be in Team USA, and they'll be playing for something tangible. One of the reasons why NBA players are so keen on going there, other than the glamour of it and wanting to be part of some sort of tradition that started with the Dream Team, is that the Olympic medal means something. It certainly means something to the hockey teams, which sometimes it's a big toss-off who's actually going to win that thing. But playing for an Olympic medal is something that everybody can understand. And it may be something that doesn't happen all the time, and it can be a unique experience. I've heard more than one person say that they probably should have only had NBA players in the 1992 Barcelona games. There was no way they were going to avoid having NBA players. There was too much money being made. But what happened in 92, having a chance to see Magic Johnson come back, obviously, having Michael Jordan in his prime, having Magic and Larry be teammates, having the likes of Charles Barkley and David Robinson and Stockton and Malone and all his teammates. But let's face it, it was mainly Magic, Jordan, and Bird on one team together, which was so amazing. And what it did is it became the single greatest international advertisement for the NBA. While Major League Baseball was getting ready to go on strike and the owners were basically doing everything in their power to not promote their players, even though they had fantastic stars to promote, the NBA turned them into rock stars, turned them into international superstars. Well, maybe baseball can do something similar. And it won't happen every summer. It won't happen in every summer game. But let's have it happen once. Let's play baseball with teams from you'll see the Cuban team, you'll see the Japanese team, you'll see the Korean team, you'll see the American team, you'll see the Dominican team. You'll see the Mexican team, all these teams that have great players on them. And maybe, just maybe, there'll be someone else from a team that we're not expecting. And it won't be something like the World Baseball Classic where you have to kind of describe who it is or figure out what it's about. It's for an Olympic medal. Taking all the players and having them play for an Olympic freaking medal. The superstars on the international stage playing for an Olympic medal. Pitchers will want to go deep into games. Players will want to dive for balls to win an Olympic freaking medal. That's going to be something else. And you know what? Because it's probably only going to happen this one time, that's something that the players are, this is my one chance to win it. Sure, you may have had some players who were part of the team, either as a college player or as a minor leaguer. They had rules in the past that couldn't be anyone on a 40-man roster. That's one of the reasons why the America couldn't put together their dream team. Now they can. Now they freaking can. And you could also do things with the pitching staff. If you have a pitching staff full of superstars, you can say, do you what? Each pitcher is going to give us 3. Boom, boom, boom. You don't have to blow out their arms because you got another superstar you can bring in. And you will see players diving for balls. You'll see people doing that. And now all of the world could see these players playing at the top level. That's the invaluable marketing and the invaluable impact that happened with the Barcelona games, that happened to the NBA. Could something similar happen to baseball? You're not going to have the Venn diagram of Jordan in his prime, Magic Johnson coming back, joining hands with Larry Bird and blah, blah, blah. But you can have something. That showdown between Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani was pretty terrific because they were both teammates at the World Baseball Classic in 2023. Could it be for an Olympic medal now? That's a little more on the line. And you'll probably get some of the top stars, probably get most of the top stars to do it. And you work something out. You work something out. If it means the season may be a little shorter or you do something else, fine. This is a one-time only thing. This may be the only time it ever happens. But it's coming up there. And you'd be able to have it being played, I'm assuming, in Dodger Stadium. Right? The gold medal game. Imagine the gold medal. I'm just going to throw this out there. The gold medal game, USA versus Dominican Republic at Dodger Stadium. You could put that would instantly sell out. And I'd go. What are you kidding me? Baseball has a few years to make this work, and they have to build on it. And quite frankly, there's a couple other things that baseball could learn from the Olympics as well, besides the marketing that happened with the Dream Team all those years ago. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can win up to 100 times your money in Prize Picks with as few as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including Texas, Georgia, and right here in California. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game. This is a reminder that Locked On has created the first ever national 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube for sports news. Locked On Sports Today is also available on Amazon TV and the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I have said that baseball should study the Olympics and why they're successful. Question I get every once in a while is, if I were trying to get someone to become a baseball fan, what would I tell them to do? And I always say the same thing. find a story, find a narrative, lock onto an narrative. Forget the stats, forget the win-loss, forget the advanced metrics. Find a story that you can emotionally attach and get into it. So therefore, you're rooting for the story as well as the outcome. I've made this point before, but that's why sports movies work. The sports movies, especially a fictitious sports movie, it's a freaking fiction. You could have them do anything they want, but you have to know who the characters are. You're rooting for the characters. You watch Hoosiers, you're rooting for the team to win, not because they're an anonymous team from Hickory, but you've gotten to know them the whole time. Now, what do we learn from the Olympics? There was a couple of times there were very emotional stories that were going on that tugged at our heartstrings. In badminton, there was a badminton, the pair from China who won, and one of them proposed to the other at the end, and it was heartwarming. There was a woman who was doing archery, pregnant. There was all sorts of great stories behind the scenes, including players from North and South Korea taking pictures together at a ping pong table or table tennis. You get into stories in the Winter Olympics about curling and bobsledding and all sorts of sports that you wouldn't watch in 1,000 years. What are you, part of the fantasy badminton team? But if you learn some of the behind the scenes stories and something to pull the heartstrings, make those front and center. People get into that, and then we'll watch any sport because you're rooting for them. Badminton tugged at my heartstrings. Baseball should be every day reaching deep in to find those stories that will just put a little quivering bottom lip and trying to get you into a story emotionally. That should be first and foremost, because you'll get all sorts of viewers. And every day will be like watching a Rocky film. But also, if baseball does let their major leaguers play, which they should, because it's the greatest marketing tool they have, it will add fire to the World Baseball Classic. If you've seen them playing at that high level, it'll make people want to watch the World Baseball Classic because it'll be the closest thing we have to it. I'm telling you something right here, and did I mention right now? This is a great opportunity for baseball to build an audience, to build an international audience, but they can't drop the ball on this. They can't be Robinson Cano having a clank off his glove. This is, and was it right? No, it was Luis Castillo. I'm sorry. I'm sure one bounced off of Cano as well. I'm thinking of Luis Castillo of the Mets. Never mind. I'm not even going to edit that out. This is a chance to market the sport that I love more than any other sport in the world, to an international audience in a way that we've never seen before. And if it means altering the 2028 schedule a little bit to accommodate it, then do it. Absolutely do it. Get everyone involved. Say, no, I don't want to lose that revenue. Oh, you'll get revenue. You'll get lots of revenue because your sport could take an absolute skyward launch into international popularity, and maybe even win over a couple of hearts here in America. All right, tomorrow we're going to review some more games, and we're seeing the pennant chase starting to collapse around and who is still in it. But right now I want to talk a little Olympics. As we said goodbye to the Olympics and watch Tom Cruise jump down, it's time to think about how America and the Olympics can help baseball jump back up. So follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, making a plea for baseball, Olympics, and major leagues. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.